Hey, welcome to another edition of the House of Beat podcast. I'm Corey.
I'm Tommy.
Today we're doing the top 5 guitar solos. We'll be right back. And we're back. As we said, today we're talking about our top 5 guitar solos. So before we get into it, just wanted to lay some of the ground rules. So as a guitarist, I kind of threw out there that I thought we should do that these are solos that are part of songs, regular songs and not instrumentals, where it's just the guitar solo is the song.
And when I heard that, I thought it sucked. But I was willing to play along.
And the other thing is that we wanted to limit it to one solo per artist or guitarist, just to kind of spread the wealth. Solo.
See what I did there?
All right. So, as the guest,
I'm a guest. Wait, I'm a guest.
Hey, it's my top 5 pick this week.
Oh, so mine doesn't count?
No.
Oh.
Anyways, so why don't you give us your number 5?
All right. And I'm going to say, too, that I think some of the things on my list are going to surprise you, and they're going to be like out of left field for you when you hear them. So number 5 for me, actually, I'm going to back up a little bit. When I was doing my top 5 list, I'm not a guitarist, by the way. So I don't know really a lot about the technical expertise behind guitar solos and timings and different things like that. So I wasn't really looking at like who can shred the best as far as be the fastest or do the most intricate work. That's not what I based it on. It for me was based on how well it fit with the song and what kind of an emotional impact it had for me. So the rules that I was using for that.
In all honesty, that's exactly how I judged mine. It had nothing to do with notes per minute, shreddability. It's all about how it fit with the song and how it enhanced or made the song what it is.
So that being said, my number 5 is actually a song by Mad Season, which is Lane Staley's solo project that he did. The song was called Wake Up. Now, the song itself is this kind of a rock and blues song. And it starts off with a xylophone of all things. So you don't really take something like that and think of rock and roll when it comes to music. So you hear this very quietly playing xylophone that kind of sits there and goes through the entire song, and then it comes in with other instrumentation. It's kind of a quiet song to start. It builds up into this really chaotic sounding guitar solo. As far as how well it fits with a song, it sort of doesn't, but it works. And the emotional impact for me with that was just hearing all this chaos and still in the background, especially when you got those headphones on, you can hear that xylophone just calmly playing in the background. And for me, that was like remaining calm amidst all the chaos going on in life. And that's what it represented for me. And it's always been a favorite of mine off that album.
So the guitarist was Mike McCready, I believe?
You know something? I don't really know who the guitarist was for that.
I want to say that it's Mike McCready of Pearl Jam. Although it could be Stone Gozer from Pearl Jam, but I'm pretty sure it was Mike McCready. I know one of those guys was in Mad Season with Lane. So I'm pretty sure it's Mike. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments. But yeah, that's definitely one that I wouldn't have thought of to put in there.
What was your number 5 then?
My number 5 is Hotel California by the Eagles.
Nice.
The guitarist, it's actually 2 guitarists, Don Felder and Joe Walsh. I mean, it's just one of those things when I was growing up that you'd hear it on the radio and it just hit you every time, just the back and forth that they did with it, and then the harmonies when they get into it for the outro, just classic.
And I'll add to that and just say that is a solo that fits to the song
Correct.
So well, and it's also very recognizable, that solo. When you hear just a piece of it, you know what that is, what it's from, if you've ever heard it before. But yeah, that is a great guitar solo, great song altogether.
All right.
So
moving on to number 4. My number 4 is Get the Funk Out by Extreme. Guitarist is Nuno Bettencourt. Nuno, to me, is one of those guys that he's an excellent shredder, but I think he's always been underrated just because Extreme was kind of got lumped in with the hair metal bands and didn't get the popular, didn't get their popular moment beyond, More Than Words, which there really wasn't a huge guitar solo in that. But to me, he is one of the quintessential, one of my favorite guitarists, and this solo is just an awesome, powerful thing, and it fits that song perfectly.
If you don't like what you see here, get the funk out. Try to enunciate it really well. You're going to bleep that, aren't you? Make it sound like I'm saying naughty words.
That'll be in the outtakes when we do unnecessary censorship.
Nice.
Yes.
So my number 4 was from the Beatles, which is the song While My Guitar Gently Weeps.
Nice.
Another song that this particular solo for me fits very well with the rest of the song. And it just is very emotive. It's very expressive. And I actually get that sense of sadness when I'm listening to that solo. And you basically have the solo in there twice, and they do variation on it the second time, and it kind of is a little longer. But that's, for me, my number 4.
All right. And moving on to your number 3.
My number 3 pick, and this is going to be Slash from Guns N' Roses, and there's so many Guns N' Roses songs out there. But the one that I appreciate the most and I love the most is actually the song The Garden off of Use Your Illusion 1. And this is another song. It's a somewhat ballady, and you actually have Alice Cooper's in there along with Axl Rose going back and forth singing in the song, and it gets somewhat kind of creepy and almost demonic sounding, especially when you got Alice Cooper coming in. But that has got one heck of a guitar solo in it as well, and that chaotic solo just screaming out of nowhere comes in, and it's to me it's just a really great solo. It's probably my favorite Guns N' Roses song.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, Slash is definitely in my top 5 guitar players, and may or may not show up later on my list.
May or may not.
My number 3 is the Jimi Hendrix Experience, All Along the Watchtower. Jimmy playing the guitar, obviously. It's just another one of those ones that you hear it and it's classic. I know in an upcoming episode we need to do top 5 covers that are better than the original. And for me, this song is definitely going to be on that list when we get there. Spoiler alert. But just the emotion that he plays on that solo is just a thing of beauty. I actually, as I was doing research to prep for this, I came across something that Dylan actually changed the way he played that song live after Hendrix covered it to be able to incorporate a Hendrix-like solo into it to give it that extra emotion when he was performing it live. Which is to me, I mean, that just says everything right there at how impactful, and it's another solo that fits that version of the song perfectly.
Yes, I have to agree. I'll say that almost made my top 5, as well as Hotel California. They're honorable mentions for me. It's hard when you're doing a top 5 to really whittle it down. But absolutely, they were front runners. And other songs just kind of moved up in the chain. And I was rearranging this list up till yesterday.
I was doing the same thing. I kept moving stuff in and out. So my number 2, since you had mentioned Slash earlier, is "Sweet Child of Mine" by Guns N' Roses. It's the one of the first songs that I heard from them. It's funny that the little intro to that song was just came out of a finger exercise that Slash was doing to just keep himself in practice and stuff, and having to record it one day, and someone's like, "Great, that's awesome. We should do a song around that." And then, but the solo for that is just Slash being Slash at his best. And whether it's the original recording or a live version, there's a million YouTube clips out there that he does it, and it just hits me right here every time, and again, it fits the song perfectly, and it's just one of those solos that I hear and it just takes me back to where I was the first time I heard it. Granted, I was a little kid, but
And if it wasn't for The Garden, "Sweet Child of Mine" would have made my top list. So since we can only have one per guitarist, That's that, that won out, but that's definitely in my honorable mentions as well. So my number 2 is an Extreme song, but not the same Extreme song.
Okay.
It is the song "Play With Me," which is off their self-titled album, and I really wasn't aware of Extreme at the time or that album, but it was in the Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure soundtrack, 1989. So that was my introduction to it, and I owned the soundtrack and for a number of different songs that were on there, and I played the heck out of that song over and over and over again. So to me, it was a little bit ahead of their time too, because they had this kind of chunking guitar in there, that's reminiscent of the grunge music before there was grunge really popular on the scene. And the solo kicks in with this kind of feather picking going on that's just really, really fast, that goes along with the tone of the rest of the song, so it really fits in really well. And then they do the kind of like the shaving the haircut with the guitar, dun, 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 and then it goes into another solo, or just a different facet of the solo where you've got all these runs and stuff like this that, again, playing really fast, but you can hear every note and it just sounds amazing. So that to me was my number 2 pick, and it fought for number 1 really bad.
Nice.
But that became my number 2 pick.
And again, goes back to what I was saying. I think Nuno is definitely one of the more underrated guitar players of our time.
Yeah, amazing work.
Just never got the recognition, that like Eddie Van Halen or an Yngwie Malmsteen or whoever, these big name guitarists got that.
Steve Vai, there's a lot of great guitarists. Eric Johnson, tons of them that are out. Of course, Eddie Van Halen, tons of guitarists out there that are really, really talented. And again, what it came down to was what the emotional impact for me, and it was one of those things where if I had the album, I wore a groove right through the album. If I had a cassette tape, that thing got eaten up because it got stretched out so much because I played it so much. So, and that's what a lot of these songs are on this list for me.
All right. Number 1.
Number 1. Do I go first or do you go first? How does this work?
I actually can see your list, and I think it doesn't really matter.
Okay, so together we're going to say that our number 1 pick is Comfortably Numb. So he saw my list, I didn't see his. So we're talking about Pink Floyd, we're talking about David Gilmour. And for me, actually, the live version of it, and you can see that like in the Pulse album, or the video, or listen to the album as well. It's just such emotion. You close your eyes and you go on a journey with this song. Every time I do, I can see myself flying through clouds and whatnot. It's just, what are your thoughts on it?
Gilmour, I mean, again, it's a solo that fits the song perfectly, but with David Gilmour, I mean, even beyond the song, he's just the tone and the style that he just has that uniqueness that just speaks to me. And I don't know, it's just, I can remember being at a restaurant having dinner with work colleagues, and there was very faintly in the background music playing, like on Muzak or something, and I wasn't familiar with the song, but I heard a solo kick in on a song, and I immediately knew that it was David Gilmour, and I asked the waiter about it. It was like a solo project that was relative, new at the time, that I hadn't heard yet, that I was able to pick it out just by 2 or 3 notes because of the style and the tone. That to me, he is probably my top blues-based rock guitar player of all time.
I will have to agree. And for me too, I always loved this song, but actually got to see Pink Floyd at the Syracuse Carrier Dome play live, and for whatever reason they're able to make that dome sound good when normally it doesn't. But that concert was amazing, and when they were doing this song, they had like a 2-story tall disco ball in the center of the stadium that's rising up in the darkness, and they're doing this song, and at one point when the solo kicks in, all these lights from around the entire stadium just hit that mirror ball at once, and it was just my jaw dropped open. And so Pink Floyd always done such a visually spectacular show, but not at the expense of the music. The music was always first and foremost, and it was the most amazing concert I've ever seen. And so hearing that song live, that cemented it forever. I can't see it getting bumped out of my top.
I as soon as we decided to do this one, I started my list and one, Comfortably Numb. I mean, I knew Gilmore was going to be on the list somewhere, but without even consciously considering or thinking of anything else, I just immediately put it there, and with the thought that if I come across something, maybe it'll get bumped. But it was definitely in the one spot right from the beginning.
All right, so that is our top 5 list. I don't know if I don't think we really can try to do a consensus on this, but we can also talk about some of our honorable mentions. So
yeah, I mean, I got like 12, 13 different honorable mentions because as I was going through and considering things, and even after I stopped at that, I keep thinking of other ones. It's like, oh, I didn't put anything by there. It's like, how could I not have something by that guitarist? So we mentioned Eddie Van Halen a couple times as being in there.
Oh yeah.
So I have Eddie Van Halen on my list, but I don't have it for a Van Halen song.
And see, even though it's cheating because it doesn't go to the rules, Eruption was going to be my number 1 until that little caveat came in and said not an instrumental. Alex Lifeson, La Villa Stringado, from Rush, and he doesn't get enough credit.
Correct.
I think as a guitarist, when you are a demigod standing amongst gods, you get overshadowed. And you got Neil Peart on drums, and you got Geddy Lee on bass. He can keep up with them. He does perform well. So again, those were instrumentals, but for non-instrumentals, I had Randy Rhoads. Pick a song.
I still didn't talk about my Eddie Van Halen song.
Oh yeah, we'll go for it.
So I did put Eddie Van Halen on my list, but I put it for "Beat It" by Michael Jackson.
I forgot he did that.
He did the guitar solo on that, and it's classic Eddie Van Halen, but it fits that song perfectly.
Absolutely.
So, anyways, back to Randy Rhoads.
So Randy Rhoads, I was going to say, pick a song, and I had Mr. Crowley on there for the guitar solo.
I had Mr. Crowley as well. I had a second Ozzy song.
What'd you have?
But because it was a different guitarist, I thought it would have been okay. But I had No More Tears with Zakk Wylde on the guitar.
Great song, great guitarist.
Yep.
Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin, Stairway to Heaven is the epitome of...
I had that on my list as well. It was in the top 5 for a little bit.
Yeah, it was for me as well. And then things just started to get bumped from Leonard Skinner, and I can't remember the guitarist's name, but Freebird is, that's classic as far as solos go. I had in there too Queensryche. The solo that always resonates with me is from the song Anybody Listening off of Empire.
Which I believe was Chris DeGarmo did the solo on that. I had Queensryche. I had Eyes of a Stranger because it's the quintessential back and forth between DeGarmo and Wilton. So that's why that one, and that's the song that led me to my favorite band. Some other ones that I had Sultans of Swing by Dire Straits,
nice.
Mark Knopfler. I had Dream Theater. John Petrucci is one of my favorite guitar players, and I had a hard time narrowing it down to a single one. I put Spirit Carries On. It was kind of 4 or 5 for a little bit until I found some other things. More recent one, I had Afterlife by Avenged Sevenfold. They're they're kind of a modern metal band that's more of a sellout because they're too popular, but Sinister Gates, the guitarist, just shreds on this one, and it's a song that was a top 40 hit because it's more of a pop song, but he still is able to put a very emotional shredding guitar solo in it, which is just awesome.
What about Kirk Hammett?
Kirk Hammett, I had one by
one,
Metallica.
Not Master of the Puppets.
I had one
of the Master of the Puppets.
No, to me, the reason I went with one is that if the way I thought about it is that if I had to explain to someone what Metallica was and who Kirk Hammett was and a guitarist in one song, I would put on that song.
In one song?
No pun intended, but that I would choose one.
One is the loneliest number you'll ever do.
Some other ones that we haven't talked about. I had Tornado Souls by Megadeth. I needed to get Marty Friedman in there. Megadeth is a band that's gone through a lot of guitarists. Dave Mustaine is a great rhythm player. He tries to do solos. He's not the greatest soloist. But to me, the quintessential time for Megadeth is from Rust in Peace through, I want to say, Euthanasia, or maybe even Risk was the last album with Marty Friedman. But that block of 4 or 5 albums, to me, is prime time Megadeth. So I had a hard time choosing a song, but settled on that. Bohemian Rhapsody by Brian May.
Oh, Brian May, very
Brian
good
May is
guitarist.
another one that his tone and his style that I could hear 4 notes and I'd be able to say, hey, that's Brian May.
Yeah, I don't know who the guitarist is, but the band Boston, they had a very distinctive sound when it came to the guitar, and the guitar work was good. I don't know if it rides up there with a lot of the others, but it's one of those things that's very distinctive.
Didn't have
sound.
my list, and the guy's name's escaping me at the moment.
I used to know it, but
Yeah.
I got old and then I forget things.
And the last one that I had on my honorable mention that we haven't talked about was Highway Star by Deep Purple, Ritchie
Oh,
Blackmore.
wow, yeah. And my mom has a guitar pick from Ritchie Blackmore.
And, you know, he's most known for the Smoke on the Water riff, but, I mean, his solo work on Highway Star is just a thing of beauty.
Yes. I kind of want to mention, while I was doing some research for this, oh, by the way, instrumental Ry Cooder, very good blues instrumental that's called Feeling Bad Blues. So, but I ran across, they were called Animals as Leaders, playing like, I think an 8-string guitar, and I'm not, the really wide neck, some of the intricate work they do. There's a song called CAFO, or CFO, or I may not be pronouncing it right, but look it up, watch the video for it. There's some weird imagery in the video too, but oh my goodness, some phenomenal work there. It's an all-instrumental song. I don't know if in some of their other work, if there's any vocals or not. I also saw on Reverb show where he was showing some of the stuff he does, and just amazing. Both guitarists are amazing in that, and the drummer puts me to shame. I think if you were to take away both his legs and one of his arms, he still is a better drummer than me by far. But that's something else to check out.
What are some of the other ones that we haven't mentioned, if you got any?
Oh, well, I said earlier, Eric Johnson, Cliffs of Dover, but that's an instrumental. If you're going Van Halen route too, I like the guitar solo from Hot for Teacher. Eruption to me that's an instrumental. And then a bunch of the other ones I have on my list are ones that you had already mentioned as well. So,
All right. Okay.
All right.
So that's our top 5 guitar solos. Not sure what our next show is going to be. I know we do have a show coming up where we're going to talk with Big Smoothie of local radio fame, but he does the 315 Strongman competition. So we're going to have him come on and talk about that a little bit in an upcoming show. I don't know if it'd be the next one, but definitely look forward to doing that. And if you like what you're hearing and seeing, there's a subscribe button down here somewhere. There's also comments down there. So if there's something specific you want us to talk about it, just let us know. And if there's a solo in a song that we overlooked and didn't suggest, throw that out there as well.
Yeah.
So until next time, I'm Corey.
I'm Tommy.
See you.